The rain had been falling for hours. Not the kind of rain that cleanses the air and makes the world feel fresh, but the heavy, ceaseless kind that seems to soak into the bones, filling every shadow with a chill that refused to leave. The wipers on Daniel's car struggled against it, screeching across the windshield in frantic arcs, barely keeping the view clear enough for him to see the road ahead. The digital clock on his dashboard glowed a sickly green. 12:47 a.m. He was halfway through his night drive. What was supposed to be a simple trip back home from his friend's place had become something else entirely. The GPS had rerouted him after a landslide had blocked the main highway, pushing him onto Route 9, an old, seldom-used road that stretched endlessly into the countryside. He hadn't even known the road existed until tonight. It was a narrow two-lane stretch, lined with skeletal trees on both sides. The branches hung over like claws, scraping against the car roof when the wind swayed them too far. Each gust carried a sound, sometimes a whistle, sometimes a groan, that seemed almost human. Daniel gripped the steering wheel tighter. His knuckles were pale in the dim glow. He told himself it was fine. Just a road, just a night drive. He'd be home in an hour. But the silence of the highway, broken only by the steady drumming of rain and the car's weary engine, carried something deeper. Something that pressed against the glass of the windows, as if the night itself leaned close, watching. At first, he thought it was just his tired eyes. Headlights appeared in the rearview mirror, distant but steady, a pair of bright white orbs cutting through the black. Relief washed over Daniel. Another car on this forsaken road meant he wasn't completely alone. But as the minutes dragged on, unease replaced relief. The lights didn't grow closer. They stayed the exact same distance behind him, no matter how much he accelerated or slowed. Always there, always steady. He flicked on his turn signal and pulled slightly to the side, slowing down to let them pass. But the car behind slowed too, keeping perfect distance. A shiver ran down his spine. Daniel laughed nervously to himself. Maybe they were just being cautious. Maybe they didn't like driving in this weather. That was reasonable, wasn't it? Still, he pressed the gas pedal harder. The speedometer needle climbed 60, 70, 80. Rain slapped against the windshield harder. His tires hissed on the wet asphalt. The lights behind him stayed exactly where they were, perfectly balanced in the rearview mirror, unmoving, watching. When the glowing sign appeared through the rain, Daniel nearly cried with relief. A small gas station stood at the side of the road, its neon sign flickering weakly. The lot was deserted, one lone pump beneath a crooked roof. The windows of the convenience store were dark, but a dim light burned inside. He pulled in quickly, tires splashing through puddles. The headlights behind him didn't follow. They stopped at the edge of the lot, just waiting. Daniel sat there, breathing hard, staring at the glowing eyes in the mirror. He tried to convince himself it was fine, that maybe the other driver was just cautious. But when he blinked, the lights were gone. No car, no movement, just empty road. He climbed out of his car, the rain soaking through his jacket instantly. The gas station looked older up close. Peeling paint, boards nailed across the far window, rust creeping along the metal doorframe. But the dim glow inside promised warmth, safety. Anything was better than the suffocating dark outside. The door creaked loudly as he pushed it open. The air smelled of mildew and old gasoline. The fluorescent lights above buzzed weakly. Shelves lined the walls, half empty, stocked with dusty cans of beans and long-expired snacks. At the far end, behind the counter, sat the attendant. An old man with gray, wiry hair, hunched in his chair like a puppet whose strings had been cut. His skin was pale, almost waxy, stretched too tight across his skull. His eyes, wide, unblinking, followed Daniel as he entered. "You shouldn't be out here." The man's voice was hoarse, as though dragged from deep inside his throat. "Not tonight." Daniel froze. Sorry, just passing through. Can I use the bathroom?" The old man shook his head slowly. There ain't no bathroom here. Ain't no need for one. Nobody stops. But Daniel started, but the man leaned forward. You need to keep driving, son. Don't stop again. Don't let them catch up. A sharp crack of thunder rattled the glass. Daniel turned, startled, and when he looked back, the chair was empty. The counter was empty. The gas station was silent. The old man was gone. Daniel stumbled back to his car, his heart slamming in his chest. He turned the key, the engine roared reluctantly to life, and he sped out of the lot without looking back. The road stretched on endlessly, but something had changed. The trees seemed closer now, their branches arching lower, nearly brushing against the windows. The white lines on the asphalt had faded, almost invisible in the rain. And the road, he was certain it hadn't twisted like this before. Hairpin turns appeared suddenly, curves sharper than any highway should have. His headlights cut into the black, showing only what lay a few feet ahead before swallowing it again. Then came the noise. First, it was just static. A faint crackle from the car radio, though it was turned off. Then voices. Faint whispers, tangled together, overlapping in languages Daniel couldn't recognize. Male, female, young, old, hundreds of voices pressed against the silence, speaking in unison, layered and layered until they became one endless murmur. He slammed the radio dial, but nothing changed. The voices weren't coming from the car. They were coming from outside, from the trees. At 2:13 a.m., he saw her. A figure stood at the side of the road, drenched in rain. A woman young, with long black hair plastered to her pale face. She wore a thin white dress, soaked through, clinging to her thin frame. Her arm lifted slowly, thumb extended in the universal gesture. Hitchhiking. Daniel's foot pressed the brake instinctively. Every horror movie he'd ever seen screamed at him not to stop. But her face, she looked so helpless, alone, desperate. He slowed the car, rolling the window down an inch. Do you need help? Her lips parted. No sound came. She stepped closer, her eyes dark pools reflecting the headlights. And then, so softly he almost didn't hear it. There behind you. Daniel's blood froze. He twisted in his seat, looking through the rear window. Headlights, back again. Closer this time. When he turned back, the woman was gone. No footprints in the wet road. No sign she'd ever been there. Faint whispers, tangled together, overlapping in languages Daniel couldn't recognize. Male, female, young, old, hundreds of voices pressed against the silence, speaking in unison, layered and layered until they became one endless murmur. He slammed the radio dial, but nothing changed. The voices weren't coming from the car. They were coming from outside, from the trees. At 2:13 a.m., he saw her. A figure stood at the side of the road, drenched in rain. A woman young, with long black hair plastered to her pale face. She wore a thin white dress, soaked through, clinging to her thin frame. Her arm lifted slowly, thumb extended in the universal gesture. Hitchhiking. Daniel's foot pressed the brake instinctively. Every horror movie he'd ever seen screamed at him not to stop. But her face, she looked so helpless, alone, desperate. He slowed the car, rolling the window down an inch. Do you need help? Her lips parted. No sound came. She stepped closer, her eyes dark pools reflecting the headlights. And then, so softly he almost didn't hear it. There behind you. Daniel's blood froze. He twisted in his seat, looking through the rear window. Headlights, back again. Closer this time. When he turned back, the woman was gone. No footprints in the wet road. No sign she'd ever been there. He didn't remember falling asleep. One moment he was gripping the wheel, fighting to keep his eyes open. The next, he jolted awake, heart hammering, car still moving. The rain had stopped. The road was utterly silent, glowing pale under a swollen moon. And he wasn't alone. The passenger seat was wet. Water dripped steadily onto the floor mat. A trail of long black hair clung to the dashboard. Daniel turned his head slowly, terrified of what he might see. The woman sat beside him, the hitchhiker. Her face was turned toward him, eyes wide and unblinking, lips stretched into a smile too wide, too sharp. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, though her fingernails had torn into the fabric of her dress, stained dark. Daniel screamed, jerking the wheel. The car swerved violently. When he looked back, the seat was empty. Just the sound of his own ragged breathing, the smell of wet earth filling the car. But the hair remained, stuck to the dashboard, proof that she had been there. The clock read 3:07 a.m. Daniel had been driving for hours, but the road never ended. No towns, no intersections, no signs of life, just the same twisted trees and suffocating dark. Worse, he began to recognize the landmarks. The crooked oak tree with a split trunk, the rusted guardrail bent outward, the shattered billboard advertising a diner that didn't exist anymore. He was looping, driving in circles, trapped. The whispers outside grew louder, pressing against the windows, begging him to stop, to open the door, to let them in. Daniel gritted his teeth, knuckles white against the steering wheel. He wouldn't stop. He couldn't stop. The old man's words echoed in his mind. Don't stop. Don't let them catch up. By 3:44 a.m., Daniel's sanity was fraying. His headlights flickered. His gas tank was nearly empty. And yet, there it was again, the gas station. He pulled in, trembling. The lot was exactly as before. The neon sign buzzed. The windows glowed faintly. And inside, behind the counter, the old man. "You're still here," Daniel whispered. "What's happening to me?" The old man's head tilted, eyes glinting under the fluorescent light. "You took Route 9, son. Shouldn't have done that. This road, it don't lead nowhere. Never has. It just keeps you driving. Keeps you feeding it. Feeding it?" The man's smile was grim. "They're hungry. Always hungry. The ones who didn't make it off. The ones who drive forever, never finding an end. You've seen them, haven't you? The lights behind you." Daniel's throat went dry. He nodded. "They're not cars. They're not people. They're echoes. Souls stuck in the loop. And now, so are you." Daniel stumbled back to his car, shaking his head. No, I'll find a way out. I'll keep driving. I'll make it home." He slammed the door, started the engine, and roared back onto the road. His headlights cut into the night. His gas gauge dipped lower. His hands trembled. Behind him, the lights returned, dozens of them. Not one car, but many. Headlights stretching back endlessly. A river of pale fire chasing him down the endless blacktop. The voices rose, no longer whispers but screams. Hands pounded against the glass from the outside, invisible but violent, leaving streaks of condensation and claw marks. The car shuddered as if pressed by unseen weight. Daniel screamed, slamming the accelerator to the floor. The speedometer climbed, 90, 100, 110. The road blurred. Trees whipped past. Still, the lights followed. Still, the screams grew louder. He didn't see the curve until it was too late. The guardrail snapped like paper. The car flew. Time slowed. Daniel's world turned upside down as the vehicle plummeted into darkness. Glass exploding, metal twisting, his body thrown against the seatbelt. The sound was deafening screams, tearing, crushing, and then silence. The car lay crumpled in the ravine, rain dripping onto broken metal. Smoke hissed from the engine. Daniel's head lolled against the shattered window, blood running down his temple. He was alive, barely, but when he looked up, his blood ran cold. Dozens of figures stood at the edge of the ravine, silhouettes against the moonlight, all watching, all waiting. Their eyes glowed faint white, like headlights. Daniel gasped for breath, clawing at the seatbelt. He had to move, had to get away. But as he reached for the door handle, a hand touched his shoulder. Cold, wet, familiar. He turned. The woman sat beside him again, her smile wider than ever. Her eyes glowed like the others. "Drive," she whispered. "It's your turn now." And in the shattered rearview mirror, Daniel saw his own reflection. But his eyes, they glowed too. On rainy nights, drivers who wander too far from the main highway sometimes find themselves on an old road that doesn't appear on maps. Route 9. Most turn back before it's too late. Some don't. And if you're ever out there, driving alone past midnight, and headlights appear behind you, steady, never gaining, never fading, don't stop. Don't look back. Because once you do, you'll never leave the night drive. Not ever.